what if? That's a question that a lot of us ask ourselves on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times if we were a kid, we asked, what if I was a Pokemon trainer? What if I was in Dragon Ball? What if I was the Avatar? So on and so forth. This is a question that I decided to answer myself, but in place of Bakugan. What if I was in the Bakugan anime? What kind of team would I have? What kind of cards would I use? What would I look like? So on and so forth. Except this video is only going to go over specifically the Bakugan I would use, and then I made a deck out of it. Before I go any further though, I do want to elaborate. I am well aware that the deck and the Bakugan I selected for this particular subject are not very good. But that's perfectly fine with me in all honesty, because if I were in the anime, I would not want to take place of any of the characters that we see save the world and do these immense fights. I would just be my own little side thing, doing my own thing. I'm not involved with the awesome ones or anything like that at all. Yeah. So anyway, on to the actual deck itself. Okay, so first and foremost, my ace. My ace is going to be my Darkest Core Feral. This is specifically because when I saw it, I was like, no, this guy right here, this one is my partner if ever I was in the anime. That was literally what I thought. That was years before I even thought of making this video, because the aesthetic is really good. It's based on Egyptian stuff. I love Egyptian stuff. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! As well as a kid, but that has nothing to do with this. It's based on royalty with being a pharaoh and based on a cat as well. Plus, it just looks cool. Do I need a better argument? Second is going to be Syndius. This is because he is a knight, but excuse me, Darkest Syndius. I mean Core Syndius as well, by the way. Just because his stats are slightly better than the Ultra one, but we won't tell Ultra that. It fits my aesthetic because he's a knight. He has a shield, a sword, and he's built in armor. He is my Black Knight, the one to protect the prince and the king and the rest of the kingdom. It fits well as a guardian, a literal guardian Bakugan, so to speak. And lastly, this one was a bit hard to decide. I was a toss-up between Fangzor, because it's a king cobra, get it? Or Trox, the tyrant king T-Rex dinosaur, excuse me. So I decided to go with the Trox one, just because, I don't know, I feel like it fit better. That, and I actually like dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs to bits. But yeah, those are the three Bakugan that I'm going to use in this deck. Now let's go over the cards. For that, we're going to have to move the camera though. Okay, so as you mentioned earlier, the Bakugan in this deck is Trox Ultra from Armor Alliance. We have Darkest Core Feral, and we have Darkest Core Syndius from Battle Planet. These two from Armor Alliance. Not the greatest lineup of Bakugan. I am not going to lie to you there. But let's take a look at what cores we have to work with these boys. Okay, so I know these things aren't going to win fights early on if I'm trying to fight against other Bakugan that are going to be much higher B power, especially because of these two here being on the low end. This is going to start off as a stall deck. So for the Trox, we just simply gave him a plus 200 minus 2 gear, so I can try and get gears on him as fast as possible to increase the B power. And we also gave him minus 3 punchy, so he's facing against anything that's going to beat him in battle, while at the very least we're not going to take that much damage. Then for the Feral, similar case, he's got very low B power. So I gave him a minus 3 punchy, so if he loses, which he most likely will, we're at the very least not going to take that much damage. And we also gave him a minus 300 minus 1 trap helix core. This is mainly for the enemy, so if they land on it, hey, they get lower B power and less damage as well. And then lastly, for the Syndius, we gave him a plus Shadow Strike minus 2 gear, helix core, and a plus 250 plus 3 Fire Fist. Look, I had to give them some B power boosting cores where I could. Okay, now onto the deck itself. Now please note, I did proxy the cards in this deck because I don't have all of them, so this whole deck is a proxy deck, because I didn't want inconsistencies with how it looks. So, for the evolutions for these Bakugan, I'm going to run 2 copies Titan Syndius, 5 energy for 1010, very expensive card, but at least it might pay off to give me 1000 plus 10 damage. Next we got a cheap one, 3 energy for Hyper Trox Ultra, 1000 B, 3 punchy, and while this has a back gear attached to it, give it plus 6 damage and Shadow Strike. Remember why I said I wanted to get gear on Trox? Because of this reason. And lastly, we're also going to run 2 copies of Titan Feral, also expensive, 5 energy for 1200 B power, 5 punchy. Sync, when this opens, you may reveal the Evo in your hand for damage equal to that Evo's punchy. So it's a bit of a reward for it if I do get it out. I get extra punchy on top of the 5 that it already has. Now, there is a card that I'm going to be using a lot in this deck. Dark Fortune, 3 energy, search your deck for an Evo card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This just helps me get my Evo cards out and put it on my Bakugan as soon as possible, because let's face it, if these things go with stats like this against other Bakugan, they might not win by themselves. Now, there's a lot of flips in this deck. Remember, I said it's a stall deck for a reason. So, we're going to have 3 copies of Block and Bite. The next flip card you play is free. So then we also got 2 copies of Punish, choose a player to discard a card. We're also going to do 2 copies of Seize Outsiders, Stop a Non-Darkus. We're going to do 2 copies of Pact of Darkness, Stop a Non-Darkus, Sacrifice. I can discard a card to play this for free. This is specifically because I got lots of flips in this deck, so I might have cards I can discard as well. We also got 2 copies of Creeping Darkus, Stop a Non-Fusion Bakugan. If you do choose a player to discard a card, it gives you some kind of control into what my opponent has. Sorry, I came out bugged out there for a second. Next, we got 2 copies of Weapons of Darkus. Stop a Darkus or a Fusion Bakugan. I learned my lesson the hard way by not putting Stop Fusion Bakugan cards in my deck. So I put 2 of these in just as insurance. Next, we're going to run 3 copies of Twilight Axis. Remember, we want gears to go on these Bakugan. Rapid Fire, second card you play is free, plus 300, plus 3 for 4 energy. This one's a bit harder to read with the camera, I apologize for that. But it is Searing Spear, a 5 cost card. When it flips, you take 2 damage instead of thingy. As a flip thing, excuse me. When this flips in your deck, you may pay 2 energy to choose a player to discard a card. So that is also very cool. It's a plus 100 plus 8 beat stick. So not much beat power boost, but does give me a lot of damage. And it allows me to have insurance when I'm taking flip damage. And I can just pay 2 energy to ask my player to make the opponent discard a card. Next, we have Umbo Slash. 2 energy, plus 100B for each flip card in the discard pile. So late game, this will help me. It'll save my butt. A fair bit, I think. Next, we got 2 copies of Darkus Sion, or Sikon, I don't know how you pronounce that. For 5 energy, 700B. It's a very expensive card, but Rapid Fire, second card you play this turn is free. So if I get Twilight Axis out, I can then play this on top of that for free. Then we're going to have 2 copies of Magnus the Power Hungry. I didn't want to overplay it with 3 copies of it. So for 6 energy, it's 6 energy, right? Yeah, 6 energy. The Bakugan you your Bakugan have 100B for every punchy they have. Insta Brawl, I can pay 4 to play this turn, but then it's destroyed after. So again, with the Evos on the Bakugan, for things like Syndius, let me just get the Evos out again. So here, like these Bakugan, Syndius will get an extra 1000B on its own, so putting him at 2000. Trox will get an extra 300, so he's already at 1300. And Feral will become 1700 already. But these cards stack. Magnus does stack. So it would basically be putting Syndius at 3000B already, which is insane. But yeah, I didn't want to overdo it with Magnus, so I just put 2 of him. Next, we got 2 copies of C, 2 energy, Shadow Strikes your Darkest Bakugan. If you deal 10 or more damage in an attack, you can draw 3 cards. So again, because these things are going to get high damage later, I wanted to put C in here. And next, we just have Lightning, 2 energy, your Bakugan get extra 100B, plus 1 punchy. It's just a filler, whatever. Just give my Bakugan extra B, because let's face it, they don't have a lot of B, especially Syndius at the start. So, what do you guys think of that? I personally am really happy with how this deck came out, and I know it's not strong, not in the slightest. It's just a fun little exercise to fit a vibe, and as if I was a side character in the anime, or a background character even, just doing my own thing, not involved at all. And I do actually want to use this deck in some battles with some decks that are on par with this kind of theme. I do have a few people in mind I want to try and battle with. Brad. Yeah, I will revisit this deck in the future and try and make it on par, with the kind of Bakugan we got on with Legends and Evolutions with a royal theme. It might not be Mono Darkus in the future with that, but yeah, I'm going to do that in the near future. And I want to make battle videos with this deck. Let me know if you guys were in the anime, what kind of team or vibe would you try and fit in with, similar to my royalty theme with being Prince of Darkus and all that. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.